kanalen. I dag skal vi ta opp nok et interessant tema, så jeg setter over til studio.
Yeah, then we welcome you to another program here in Family Channel. My name is Rune Fardal and I'm sitting with Marius Reikerås. And we are sitting in Strasbourg on a street restaurant, feeling the pulse of the city sort of way. Yesterday we attended the Grand Chamber hearing in the Lobben case here in Strasbourg, and we will tell you a little bit about our impression from that meeting and things that affect that meeting or this case actually. So, Marius, what was your reaction, your feeling when you get out of there yesterday when we were finished the finale, sort of?
Grand finale.
Grand finale.
Yeah, it's literally a grand final because it's not possible to get any further in the legal system with regard to human rights in Europe.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, we're talking about a grand final, and of course yesterday was an extremely special day for a lot of people. Of course it was an historical day, the first day in history when a Norwegian child welfare case was brought all the way to the top in Europe.
Yeah.
A lot of emotions going through the audience, also through me, and but of course I was very happy with the final, to put it that way, and I was happy with the way the proceedings went. I think the 20 judges who were there really understood that Norway is actually committing very severe crimes against their own population.
Yeah.
So definitely, yeah, I think we succeeded very well. We've done everything we could.
Yeah.
It's not up to us anymore, but if there is some justice left in the world, we will certainly win this case.
Yeah.
And I truly believe in the judges that they realized what's at stake here, and that we're talking about young mother and a family that has gone through some severe pain that is unimaginable for most people to understand. And
because the setting in the room was the judges in front and Trude Lobben with her lawyer and you behind in one part, so there was, let's say, 3 people on Trude Lobben part, and then on the government side there was the Attorney General, and he had 9 other people in that group. So that sort of show the unbalance in power here.
There is a legal fraction saying that there should be some equality of arms, meaning equality before the law. In this case, obviously shows that there is not. I mean, the government of Norway has all the resources in the world to spend on cases, and that picture when she was sitting there by herself, whereas these 9 lawyers and agents for the government were close to and looking at her like she was some kind of like something they could scare or something. That was something that I will remember for the rest of my life, because that picture was so strong. It proves that the Norwegian government is willing to spend as much money as possible to lie, to cheat, and to try to get away from the violations they have committed to her and to a lot of other families. And that should never be tolerated. No. And I'm very happy to see that we had coverage from international media. I think the judges, I have faith in the judges that they looked behind the masquerade of the Norwegian of the government, and we just have to continue to address this to the rest of the world as much as possible, in order to say that enough is enough, and we're fed up with this system, and we're fed up with the Norwegian government lies. It's not the best system in the world. We have a lot of things to learn from other countries, and we have to stop believe that Norway, with a population of 5 million people, can overcome the rest of the world with 7.5 billion people. We have to be more humble, and we have to stop moralize about others when we are truly violating the rights within our own system.
Because I see the Norwegian government, they have tried to sell the childcare system that we have in Norway to a lot of other countries. And it sort of looked like a bribe situation where they give a lot, there are millions of euros going into that system for every country. And then if you don't follow us, or if you talk against us or whatever, we will withdraw funds.
Exactly.
There is a dynamic there. We saw that in the Polish case about the Silja case, asking for asylum, and where they obviously use money to block that one.
But the interesting part is I met with some high-ranking officials just before the Grand Chamber opening, and they could tell me that Romania and Bulgaria, two of the countries who I know are in support of our point of view of the case, were approached by Norwegian officials, where the Norwegian officials told them that if you intervene on behalf of Mrs. Lobben, we will withdraw our fundings to your countries. And Bulgaria obviously was not affected because they intervened. One of 4 countries who truly intervened in the case on our behalf. But Romania did not.
No.
And that surprised me a little bit because in 2016, when you go back and remember the Bunari case,
that was Romanian.
That was Romanian Norwegians. And Romania established a huge support throughout the world in order to support that family. So, and I still believe the Romanian people and the Romanian government support the Norwegians who are suffering from the same violations. So, but it remains to see if Norway actually succeeded in getting Romania up from the list.
But we see they are using a lot of funding to try to win in the Court of Human Rights, and for them it's more important to win than actually to stop the violation of human rights.
To see justice being done. You're right, and I talked to a member of the European Parliament just hours before the session opened as well, and he said the same thing, that he was not afraid that if there was some justice in that court building, he was not afraid of the outcome. But what he was afraid of was that Norway, or the officials from Norway, had managed to lobbying throughout Europe with their fundings. And that concerns me a lot as well, that we think we can pay off all these countries with our oil money and oil and gas money. And of course that causes a lot of concern that we're not in control of what's going on at the top levels.
No. But that also shows the fear, the desperation for a verdict against Norway.
Of course.
So if this Lobben case goes against Norway, which, what shall we say, we got the feeling in the court yesterday
we truly hope so, of course.
It was a good feeling when we sat there.
It was a great feeling. Of course, we felt this. There was a sense of feeling of justice within that building. That you can see Mrs. Lobben on the one side, and this army of lawyers and soldiers on the other side. You had the 9 lawyers and representatives on behalf of the government. But in addition to that, you had more than 100 people or delegates from the public side of Norway. Judges, members of the boards, and even some government
I think there was about 20 judges there, and there was from this board,
this welfare county boards,
county board.
County boards.
They have the top boss was there, and a lot of delegates, and there was other from the Norwegian officials there, and that show that they take the case serious, because this can really hit them bad if she actually win now.
Keep in mind that we have managed, the Norwegian population has managed to put pressure upon the Norwegian government within the European Parliament. And last summer, the European Council of Europe, so-called PACE, Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, drafted a resolution against Norway with 43 to 2 votes. We have seen BBC has been there, lots of international news has been to Norway, and so on. So we certainly see that Norway is under severe pressure. And keep in mind that Norway was also convicted in the European Court only a little more than a month ago.
That was the Janssen
versus Norway, which was a unanimous case. And so the pressure is still on Norway. But you heard what the agent of the government said yesterday, that we truly disagree with the criticism, and we really don't care. But what we care about is to have the court to back off. We want to have our violations.
It was actually that they saying, because they say we have a good system in Norway.
Not only good, the best.
The best. And we don't need you to interfere. That's what actually they said. And that's maybe not so smart to say in that room, in that court.
I think we witnessed yesterday that the notion of arrogance reached a new level, a new top level. Can you imagine that a guy, a state attorney from Norway, coming into the Grand Chamber, looking to the 20 judges and say, "Hey guys, back off. We don't want you to interfere with our violations." And you were not in position to do that. He said that. He said that we will handle this by ourselves. So I can only imagine that these judges must have been like totally shocked.
That must have been experienced at a new level of arrogance from the Norwegian government side. Because I have seen your friend in the parliament in EU, Mr. Thomas Tschikowski. He actually sent a letter to the Norwegian Prime Minister
several times,
and they don't even answer him.
No.
That's even the arrogance.
Even the president of the Czech Republic brought a personal letter to our former Minister of Child Affairs. And he was responded. But can you imagine the response? It was drafted by a clerk. Or a political advisor, saying that, "Dear President of the Czech Republic, I refer to your letter. Unfortunately, we cannot help you to get the children back to the Czech Republic, but we can definitely provide you with a leaflet of the Norwegian Barnevern in English." You see, it's like
it's the same arrogance.
It says so much about the system. And I think the national society is truly fed up with arrogance. I mean, we cannot pretend that we are an isolated part of the world which are dominated in the world picture. I mean, we are only we don't even count of promilles of the world's population, but still we tend to believe that we will be the world police or the number one. And as
they front Norway, the government front Norway as the moral police
of the world,
while they are actually the opposite.
Where they say
they are
that
breaking the human rights.
We have the best system in the world and so on. So, in my opinion, this is like it's interesting. You know, there's a huge delegation in China these days, and and the thing is that this delegation is very busy with the violations going on in China, whereas they try to disclose the violations going on in Norway. You know?
But that is the typical Norwegian style. They don't see that. Just leave it there.
Yeah, that's okay.
They don't. What shall we say? They don't see the people.
No, they don't care about
these
people.
They don't care about.
If they had a minimum of empathy of Mrs. Lobben and her family yesterday, of course they would not have met with like a bunch of lawyers and tried to intimidate her, and really were confronting her with severe lies. I mean, they do everything within their power to avoid being convicted, and they're willing to do whatever it takes just to avoid that.
Step on people, because
doesn't matter.
I see Miss Lobben. She write a little bit on her Facebook. after the event yesterday, and she for her it was very difficult, very emotional.
Yeah, she was crying there.
And it wasn't easy for her to sit there in front of all the judges, a single mother with her family back home, and feeling the pressure.
Exactly.
And there beside her, her lawyer, and on the other bench, 9 lawyers from Norway. And she told us too that what they said was lies.
Severe lies.
Her, severe lies about her. And when you have somebody that arrogant, and in that room, in the grand chamber, have no limit to produce that big lies.
But can you imagine how, when they're willing to go that far in the grand chamber, can you imagine how it is in the domestic courts in Norway?
Yeah.
Because in Norway, the government wins in more than 90% of the cases anyhow.
Yeah.
Because the judges more or less say that we have fully confidence in they even have huge respect for these lawyers who work for the government agency. We saw yesterday that, as you mentioned yourself, there was a delegation of more than 20 judges and a bunch of members of the court of the county boards. And where did they sit? Next behind the bench of the attorney
lawyer from Norway.
And of course, if they were objective and independent, there should never be, even they saluted the government agent when he was finished with his speech, saying, great work, you did great, and so on. So
it's frightening to see that the people who are elected to take care of the population in Norway show that arrogance against the population in Norway. They are showing they are the elite, and they don't care actually about people at all.
I think one lady who was there, a Norwegian lady, she spontaneously said when she saw that huge Norwegian crowd from the public side of Norway that, wow, these are educated people who work against human rights. And I think that's very well said. Because these are people who have power, who are in position, and they work against their own people.
I was coming to the court very early in the morning, and when I stood there, this delegation of the lawyers from the Norwegian group come, and there was young people, most of them, probably highly educated, and they are used against the people in Norway. There's something wrong here. They should be fighting for the Norwegian man and woman.
But it's a very conformed society, among the most conformed societies in the world. And if you want to make a career within the public sector, of course you have to stick with you have to be loyal to the system.
Loyal to the system, not to the people.
And of course, I mean, you and me probably wouldn't even have a chance to have like a job in public sector at all, which is fine, but it tells, because we're there to stick out from the crowd and say that there is something severely wrong with the system.
There is actually something wrong with the leadership, because a true leadership will look for somebody who make opposition, and at least to hear the voices and check out, can that be a way to think out of the box to get a better system? But they are totally closed-minded. It's our way or the highway.
Yes, as long as you don't comply with the accepted Norwegian standards, you are an enemy of the states.
Then we are back again after a short break. Even freedom fighters need food sometimes. But we were talking about the Human Rights Court yesterday, Grand Chamber Lobben case, and there was actually a lot of, shall we say, people from the people, sort of.
People's group.
People's group in there. And that was people who not get their bill paid by the government. No, they paid for this themselves. They come down to Grand Chamber to give support for the Lobben case and show their engagement in this case. So that was interesting.
Very. I mean, we saw a group of close to 30 people coming here.
Yeah.
Which was quite amazing to see.
Yeah.
And as you said, they have to fund this themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas the Norwegian delegation, they live at fancy hotels. They have expensive flight tickets.
Yeah.
They even
probably salary while they stay.
They get salaries while they're here. They have all these privileges that the people on our side can only dream about.
Yeah.
But still, we saw that close to 30 people showed up to show the support for this case and all the other cases as well. So, and that is really moving to see that people are willing to stand up and even travel far to support. That's really important.
I think it was noticed there in the court system too that so many civilians, to put it like that, come to visit and follow the Lobben case and support Trudy Lobben in her case, because this happening yesterday, that is actually a historic happening.
Certainly is.
That will go down in the history books forever. That Norwegian government was on trial in the Grand Chamber in the European Court of Human Rights, and a huge delegation, actually enormous public delegation was there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's important.
And we got support from others as well. I talked to some Ukrainian lawyers coming from Kiev.
Yeah.
And they were impressed with the fact that lots of civilians showed up, whereas they were shocked to see so many people from the Norwegian delegation. So they were asking rhetorically, how much money do Norway spend on this case?
If we say about 100 people from the Norwegian delegation, from Norwegian government was there, paid by the Norwegian taxpayers. Let's say each one with the tickets, hotel, salaries. Let's say 25,000 for each one. 100. That's 2.5 million. Just to come down
and to observe and to try to
be there.
frighten
that one little lady sitting there alone. That gives you some thinking.
Gives you some really
scary,
special thoughts, I think. And it's scary, and but it proves that
they're willing to go all the way.
And we have seen that in so many other cases as well.
Yeah.
I mean, this interview will be broadcasted or it will be sent to India.
Yeah.
India is, or the Indians are more and more interested in what's going on in Norway, and you can reach.
They are affected by this
because they've been affected by themselves.
Yeah.
Slovakia was there yesterday with the TV,
yeah.
And as the reporter said, that we are also affected by the Norwegian system, and we don't get any funds from Norway, so we might as well stand up for our rights, you know.
Yeah.
So in general, I think that thanks to TV and thanks to the web, it's possible to mobilize and broadcast on social media. I think we are able, and we are in the process to reach a lot of people with our message.
Yeah.
So that's super.
Yeah. So now yesterday it was over. Now we sit here on a street restaurant in Strasbourg, feeling the pulse of the life in the city. It's a very interesting city with narrow streets and big cathedral.
Beautiful city.
Beautiful city. And good food actually too.
So now it's just to wind up this session and move on to the next one.
Yeah. Now there are a lot of other cases.
Yeah.
And actually the Human Rights Court is holding, is it 9 cases now, waiting for the outcome of the Lobben case now.
Most likely, yes.
Most likely that. And so if the Lobben case goes against Norway, it will also set the standard for the other 9 cases against Norwegian barnevernet.
Not only for the 9 cases, but for the system in general.
Yeah, probably.
So we're talking about lots of cases.
Yeah.
Because what this case actually proves is, and if we are successful with having Norway convicted for a violation, is that of course there's something severely wrong with the system. So, and that was actually stated in the previous judgment, Janssen versus Norway as well. That Norway is not really complying with the human rights standards.
No.
And but the problem is that Norway is way up there, and more or less like a little bit isolated from the rest of Europe. And they don't comply with the repair mechanism, meaning that even when they are convicted, they seem to ignore these convictions. And that's, you keep in mind what the judge from Iceland addressed to the Norwegian government yesterday. He said that, to say it very frankly and to say it very, to rephrase what he said, he said that if you're going to be convicted, will you still not consider you are convicted? I mean, he said that, do you care? Do you really care? And I think, keep in mind, there were three judges yesterday who raised some very specific questions to the Norwegian government, and they were all addressed to the government. And all of these three questions, they more or less summarize the problems that we're coping with on an everyday basis. The first question is, why did this midwife who supported the mom, why did she disappear when she supported her? And which is an excellent question, because it proves that the people who are supporting the mother, or the families, or the people who are fighting against the government, they tend to disappear.
If they say something good for the mother or the child, they disappear.
And that actually is something that Indian media has drawn a lot of attention to in that North Sea divers case, where all these people who supported the divers, they more or less disappeared, or they died on a very convenient basis for the government. You see? And the same happened in the Lobben case, that the midwife that was supporting her
disappeared.
She disappeared. What happened?
She wasn't important. No. So the
they
system
got rid of her.
They're controlling all the information.
And the second question that was raised was that how was this interference, I mean taking the child, how was it done? And you cannot imagine how brutal that is. You just go in, grab the baby, and just take the baby and say to the mother, you have 10 minutes to pack your things, and you have to leave from here. Then she was as the mother home.
They actually took the child and told the mother, get out of here.
And the third question, as I told you, addressed by the Icelandic judge, saying that, do you really care about being convicted in this court? So
and he didn't actually answer the question.
No, he didn't answer at all.
He started talking about something else and how perfect the system is. You can have more brochures from us. That's what he actually said.
Exactly.
Scary. So, it's arrogance.
It's so much arrogance.
They're not able to be humble and take it from there. That all these international protests.
Exactly.
It doesn't exist for them. They think they can pay their way out of it. Huh?
And it was so funny because I talked to the other French lawyer who was there yesterday. And she was so shocked. She was sitting next to me. She's working with Gregory. And she said in like a French-English accent that she just spontaneously said that, that Norwegian lawyer is so arrogant. So you see, it was very. So I think they were shocked. And the Ukrainian lawyer said the same thing. They were amazed by his arrogancy. How it's possible to be there in front of 20 of the highest ranking judges in Europe saying that, hey guys, I'm the king. And just leave me and my government.
Stay away from us.
We have the best system anyhow.
It is crazy. It is crazy.
And it was addressed in Dagblad as well. You saw that. And Dagblad I have to credit Dagblad for being on the people's side in this case, definitely. And you saw what was stated there on the front page yesterday in Dagblad, where they said that Norway asked the European Court to back off.
That says it all.
It says it all.
And that's actually what the Norwegian lawyer was doing. crazy.
So we certainly don't make many international friends if we want to keep up with these guys in the agent system. So
that's for sure.
But it reminds me a little bit about when I attended a human rights conference in Brussels in the European Parliament back in 2015.
Yeah.
And where the Norwegian EU ambassador who is stationed in Brussels was invited. And he more or less said the same thing to the audience, saying that, hey, Marius he's a crazy guy. We have the best system in the world. Don't care. And the Bulgarian parliament, remember, just raised up with his jacket, huge guys like, you were so full of shit.
But that is another interesting story in this, how they treat people, because we see how they treat critics in Norway. They report them to police, they intimidate them, they try to scare them, and they sort of block them out of everything. And that is the Norwegian democracy.
Personally, they have harassed me for 10 years. I mean, they've threatened to sell my house for 11 or 12 times.
Yeah.
You know, they just took my license without any legal approval or anything. They just took it from him. And they will never give it back anyhow.
No.
I don't care anyhow because it's not important anymore. But
you can still proceed.
I can still do my work here
we
anyway.
Don't need them.
Yeah. So that's so you know it's just hilarious to see, and so it's.
I think there is a revolution in the making.
Because they you know, they do everything they can to get rid of me, you know, and I know they try to get rid of you as well. So this is nice. It actually says expert on the badge. Can you see? This is my greetings to the Norwegian government. So of course I have the support in Europe. So, but of course they really, and keep in mind that one of the ladies who were there yesterday, paid by the government on the government expense, this Pernille Pettersen-Smith. Who's in charge.
She have reported us to the police.
Reported us to the police because we criticized the system on social media. And you remember what was said in the charges she brought? That we had too many friends on Facebook. So we were
that was negative. we had too many connections out there. That's the reason why she report us to police. But I myself have been
so much for freedom of speech, huh?
Yeah, crazy. But I see they cancel these reports or these accusations every time in the system. So actually we're winning over them, and that must be frustrated.
Yeah, but keep in mind how much resources they try to spend to get rid of the people to try to improve the system.
Oh, that's crazy.
So it's it's funny.
Thank you.
You can take a look at it.
It's really funny.
It's okay. Okay. I think we got through most of the subjects regarding yesterday. There will be a lot of follow-up on this one. I am quite sure. We are just seeing the.
What we have to do when we get back home is to ask for. To make a review of all the expenses that the government
because that is
put in this case alone. Because
the reason to put a big question about the expenses or the resources they put into this.
Yeah, because they spend the people's money against the people. It's horrible.
Okay, then you have heard the day after talk about the Grand Chamber hearing here in Strasbourg, the 17th. Today is the 18th. We are sitting on the restaurant here in the beautiful city, and with the life around us, I'm sure you can hear. And memorizing, thinking about some of the experiences that we had yesterday in the human rights course. And to all people out there in the world, it's about time to open your eyes and see what the Norwegian government is actually doing, and not what they are saying, because what they say is not what is done in the Norwegian child welfare system. They say one thing. It's actually just like the court yesterday. The lawyer from the Norwegian government, he said one thing, but what is really happening is totally different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you stand trial for murder, of course you don't want to admit that you committed the crime. Yeah? That's exactly what it's saying.
Okay, that should round up the talk we had today.
Yeah.
And we will keep up the fighting. We will inform you, the public, everywhere in the world, what is really going on in Norway. And this fight isn't over.
No,
until it's over.
It has barely started.
We are just starting. Okay, goodbye from us here in Strasbourg, and we will soon be back with more for you about the Norwegian childcare system, the so-called barnevern.